The sun blazed overhead as I pulled into the Henderson's driveway, my lifeguard certification still fresh in my wallet. At 19, I'd finally landed my first real summer job at the community center pool, and today was my day off. But when your best friend since middle school calls asking for help with his family's backyard barbecue, you show up. Jake, Marcus called from the backyard gate. Perfect timing, man. Mom's been stress cleaning all morning for this thing. I grabbed the bag of ice from my car and followed the sound of splashing water and classic rock. The Henderson backyard was transformed, string lights draped between trees, the pool crystal clear, and Mrs. Henderson, Elena, arranging appetizers on a table near the water's edge. She looked up as we approached, and something caught in my throat. I'd known Elena Henderson for years, but today she seemed different. Maybe it was the way the afternoon light caught her dark hair, or how her sundress moved as she worked, but for a moment I forgot how to breathe. "Jake, thank you so much for helping today," she said, her voice carrying that warm accent that had always made her sound like she was sharing a secret. "Marcus told me you're working as a lifeguard now." "Yes, ma'am, just started last week. I managed setting the ice down. Anything you need help with?" She smiled, and I noticed how it reached her eyes. "Actually, I was hoping to get a quick swim in before everyone arrives. Marcus refuses to get in the pool, says the water's too cold, but I think it's perfect. Mom's basically part fish," Marcus laughed. "She swims laps every morning before work, rain or shine." I watched as Elena moved toward the pool house to change, and felt that familiar confusion I'd been fighting for months. When had I started noticing these things about my best friend's mom? When had her laugh started affecting me this way? 20 minutes later, the backyard was quiet except for the gentle splash of Elena's swimming. Marcus had run to the store for last-minute supplies, leaving me to arrange chairs and pretend I wasn't watching her graceful strokes through the clear water. She was in the deep end, near the diving board, when everything changed. The scream cut through the afternoon air like broken glass. I spun toward the pool to see Elena floating face down, her body rigid with pain. Without thinking, I dove in fully clothed, my lifeguard training taking over. The water was colder than I'd expected, but adrenaline kept me moving. "Elena," I called out, reaching her in seconds. "I've got you, just relax." Her face was twisted in agony, one hand clutching her left calf. "Cramp," she gasped. Can't move my leg." Using the rescue techniques burned into my muscle memory, I got my arm across her chest and began pulling her toward the shallow end. She was trembling, whether from pain or fear or cold. I couldn't tell. "You're okay," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Just breathe. I've got you." Elena's body was pressed against mine as I carried her up the pool steps, her wet hair plastered to her neck, her breathing ragged. I set her down gently on a lounge chair, my hands still shaking from the adrenaline rush. "Don't move," I said, kneeling beside the chair. "Let me look at your leg." The muscle in her calf was knotted and hard as stone. I'd dealt with cramps during lifeguard training, knew the right pressure points and stretches. But this felt different, more intimate, more charged with something I didn't want to name. "This might hurt a little," I warned, placing my hands on her leg. Elena nodded, her dark eyes locked on mine. As I worked to massage the cramped muscle, she bit her lower lip, and I found myself memorizing every detail of her face. The way her lashes darkened when wet, the small scar above her left eyebrow, the way she watched me with something that looked almost like wonder. "Better?" I asked after several minutes of careful massage. She flexed her foot experimentally. "Much better. Jake, if you hadn't been here." "But I was here," I said firmly. "That's what matters." Elena sat up slowly, testing her weight on the affected leg. We were close now, closer than we'd ever been, and I could smell her perfume mixing with chlorine and summer air. Her hand reached out, fingers brushing against my wet shirt. "You're soaked," she said softly. "Because of me." "It's fine," I replied, though my voice came out rougher than intended. "Just doing what anyone would do." "No." Elena shook her head. "Not anyone would have reacted that fast. Not anyone would have. Marcus told me you saved a child at the community pool last week, too. You really are a hero, aren't you?" The way she said it made my chest tighten. There was something in her voice, in her eyes, that spoke of more than simple gratitude, something that made the air between us feel electric. "I'm not a hero," I said. I couldn't let anything happen to you." The words hung between us, heavy with meaning neither of us was quite ready to acknowledge. Elena's hand was still on my chest, and I could feel my heart hammering against her palm. "Jake," she whispered, and my name on her lips sounded different than it ever had before. The sound of Marcus's car in the driveway broke the spell. We sprang apart as if we'd been caught, doing something wrong, though nothing had happened. Nothing except that moment of recognition, that shift in the air that changed everything. "You should go change," Elena said quickly, her cheeks flushed, "before you catch cold." But we both knew it wasn't cold I needed to worry about. The barbecue was in full swing by evening. Neighbors filled the backyard. Music played from hidden speakers, and the smell of grilled burgers mixed with Elena's famous salsa. I changed into dry clothes, but I could still feel the ghost of Elena's touch on my chest, still see the way she'd looked at me by the pool. I was helping Marcus clean up near the grill when Elena approached. She'd changed into a flowing white dress that made her look like something from a dream, and she walked with only the slightest favor to her left leg. "How's the leg feeling?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Perfect, thanks to you," she replied. "Jake, could I speak with you for a moment?" Privately, Marcus looked between us curiously. "Everything okay, Mom?" "Of course, me and more. Just want to thank Jake properly for this afternoon." She led me toward the garden area, away from the crowd and noise. String lights cast everything in a warm, golden glow, and I could hear the distant sound of laughter from the party. But all I could focus on was Elena, standing so close I could count the freckles on her shoulders. "I keep thinking about what happened today," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "About what could have happened if you weren't there. I was so scared, Jake. Not just of drowning, but of never getting to tell you." "Tell me what?" I asked, though part of me was terrified of the answer. Elena looked down at her hands, then back up at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Vulnerable, conflicted, beautiful. "I know this is wrong," she said. "I know you're Marcus's friend. I know you're 19 and I'm 38. I know there are 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling. But, Jake, when you pulled me out of that pool, when you held me like that, I felt something I haven't felt in years." My mouth went dry. "Elena, how can I ever repay you?" she asked, stepping closer. "How do I repay someone for saving my life, for making me feel alive again?" The question hung in the air between us, loaded with possibility and danger. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the mother, the responsible adult, warring with the woman who'd felt something shift in a moment of crisis. "You don't owe me anything," I said, but my voice betrayed me, revealing how much I wanted her to owe me everything. "Don't I?" she asked, her hand reaching up to touch my face. "Because I think I do. I think I owe you more than you know." Elena's fingertips traced along my jawline, and I felt like I was drowning all over again. But this time, there was no rescue, no training to fall back on. Just the weight of choice, heavy and immediate. "Elena, we can't," I whispered, even as every cell in my body screamed at me to lean into her touch. "Can't we?" she asked. "Or won't we?" The distinction felt important, crucial even, because the truth was we could. We were both adults, both free to make our own choices. The barriers were social, not legal. Complicated, but not impossible. "Marcus is my best friend," I said, grasping for solid ground. "This would destroy him." "Marcus is my son," Elena replied. "Don't you think I know what this could cost? Don't you think I've thought of nothing else since this afternoon?" Her honesty was devastating. I could see the war playing out behind her eyes, duty against desire, what she should do against what she wanted to do. And I recognized it because the same battle was raging inside me. "So what are you saying?" I asked. Elena was quiet for a long moment, her hands still against my face. Around us, the party continued, oblivious to the seismic shift happening in the garden. Finally, she spoke. "I'm saying that sometimes life gives you moments. Crossroads. And you can either take the safe path, or you can take the path that might lead somewhere extraordinary. And which path are you choosing?" Instead of answering with words, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed me. Soft at first, tentative, giving me room to pull away. When I didn't, when I instead deepened the kiss, my hands finding her waist, she pressed closer, and I tasted pool water and possibility on her lips. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Elena rested her forehead against mine, her eyes closed. "That's my answer," she whispered. "What's yours?" The party was winding down by the time we returned to the backyard, our absence unremarked by the remaining guests. Marcus was stacking plates, and he looked up when he saw us. "There you are," he said. "I was wondering where you disappeared to." "Just showing Jake the new roses," Elena said smoothly. "He has such an eye for gardens." The lie came so easily it should have bothered me more than it did. Instead, I found myself impressed by her composure, by how normal she could sound when everything had changed. "Cool," Marcus said, clearly not interested in botanical discussions. "Jake, you want to stay and help finish cleaning up? I'll order pizza." I looked at Elena, saw the slight shake of her head. Too much too soon. We needed time to process what had happened, what it might mean. "Actually, I should head home," I said. "Early shift tomorrow." Marcus nodded, clasping my shoulder. "Thanks for today, man. For helping with the party and, well, for taking care of Mom when she had that cramp. You're a good friend." The words twisted in my chest, but Elena's quick glance steadied me. "Friend. For now." That's what I'd remain, at least on the surface. As I gathered my things, Elena approached with a container of leftover food. "For your trouble today," she said, pressing it into my hands. As she did, she slipped something else into my palm, a small piece of paper. "Thank you," she said, her eyes holding mine for just a moment too long. "For everything." I walked to my car with my heart pounding, the paper burning in my hand. Once I was out of sight of the house, I unfolded it. "Meet me tomorrow. Sunset. The old pier. If you want to see where this extraordinary path might lead. E." I sat in my car for several minutes, staring at the note. Tomorrow felt both impossibly far away and terrifyingly close. I thought about Marcus, about friendship and loyalty in lines that couldn't be uncrossed. I thought about Elena in my arms by the pool, the way she'd kissed me in the garden, the question that had started it all. How can I ever repay you? I have my answer now, not with money or favors or simple gratitude, but with trust, with secrecy, with the willingness to step onto an uncertain path and see where it might lead. As I drove home through the quiet suburban streets, I kept catching Elena's scent on my clothes, chlorine and roses, and something uniquely her. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough, and despite every rational thought telling me to tear up that note and forget what had happened, I knew I'd be at that pier when the sun set. Some debts, after all, were worth paying.